good night, everyone, and welcome to the conversation. I'm your co-host, Alistair Sampson. With us, we have Christopher Crossley, aka Mr. Crossley, aka the Gentleman, and also from FitX Studio, we have Micaiah Wilson, aka Mr. Mike himself. He just off the camera for a little bit, but you're going to see him. And we have a special guest with us as well. We have, as you realized here, we have a person by the name of Christian Rodriguez. Now, Christian has over 15 years combined experience in IT. And for the topic that we are going to be chatting about today, which is really in terms of protecting ourselves online, especially now that we are home and we are going online more than ever, it's more than ever we need to really have that protection going on. And we found it fit that we need to actually bring in someone with some strong IT experience, especially with respect to internet security, information security, to really be on the conversation with us. So again, it's our pleasure to have Christian Rodriguez with us. Christian, welcome to the program. How are you doing, man?
Hey, good night, everyone. Thank you all for having me on your program this afternoon, and good evening to all your viewers and persons that log in on a weekly basis to join the conversation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Now, we have a little tradition that we just do here. We have something called the COVID check with Christopher. So, Chris,
yes.
So for how to do it like this, Christopher and Christian. So, Christopher, COVID check is out. Right now, it's in your court, man. Go strong.
All right. So, good evening once again to everyone tuned in tonight. Mm-hmm. And as always, before we start the show, we like to have a COVID check-in, especially when we have our guests as well, because we know everybody is dealing with the pandemic in their own way. So, Christian, how has, dealing with the pandemic been for you since, it came to our shores in 2020, we first went into the lockdown, and I do hope that you weren't personally directly affected from it. So how has it been for you?
Initially, the first 2-3 weeks was rough because adjusting to working remotely, working from home, that started to feel like the walls were closing in on you. But eventually, as with everything in life, you begin to adapt to a new reality, and it's been, I would say, it's been going reasonably well for me. I've found myself having a better, work-life balance working from home. I'm able to exercise more regularly. I get more sleep. I get more done. I'm not frustrated in traffic and so forth. So it's so far I can't really complain. I have a lot to be grateful for, despite some of the things we'd have lost in this remote working and situation, and not being able to enjoy some of the things we are accustomed doing, like going on the avenue or going to the beach or the river and stuff like that. Just a lot to be grateful for.
Agreed. So for you, I know you mentioned you had better, more or less like work-life balance. For a lot of people, we saw that their productivity shifted, and even their sleeping routine or regimen shifted as well. Was that the same for you? Did you find you were more productive, less productive? Sleep hours changed completely?
Yeah, sleep has changed in a positive way. Actually,
Okay.
don't need to get up at 5:30. I get up at 8. Sit, have breakfast, chill out a little bit, and start working at 9. And so that's definitely a plus. And I again, there's no traffic. I don't waste 3 hours a day to and from work. So that those 3 hours can definitely be spent more productively and in that sense. And if I work up to 5, I could still close down and go outside and do something in the yard, get ready to exercise with FitX. It's been so far been a overall positive experience.
Okay, great, man. That's very, very good to hear, because we always like to make sure people, or I say make sure, see how people have been dealing with the changes in their personal lives. Because, we always say we all have businesses here, but it's the human that run the business, and once we're affected, it usually affects our business and other areas of our life as well. So just to touch base with you guys, Alistair and Mike, how has the last week been for you?
Like this last week has been sweaty.
Sweaty.
I've been sweaty, yeah.
Mr. Fitex himself, man, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. With I always say that with everything that we implement new, especially in this long period, it's not the same. It's not to be treated the same way as if you were launching something without the pandemic being present. So pre-pandemic activities you could launch things on our web, you could do certain things that would really not be affected by much, But now it's like, there's so much. Number one, so much online that's grabbing people's attention, and people are so saturated in some ways that you have to be very cautious as to how you approach, and it's a totally different thought process, but it's still not bad, It's just very sweaty this last week. Can't say I've but very sweaty.
I hear you on that one, man. I think for the week as well, there has been a little bit of hectic items going on, but I believe overall I had to do a little bit of adjustment. I have a new rhythm. I had to plan this new rhythm carefully because this is a new rhythm I'll have to start from next week for sure, to really get certain things done, not only from a mental area but definitely a physical area as well too. It have certain things that I need to get really balanced off in my life in terms of getting things done. So we have some work going on there. My wife and I doing a little bit of an alliance in our business right now that has really taken off pretty well during this particular time. I'm being honest with you. I think it was really kicked off because of the pandemic. When you see an opportunity, you work and go for it. So I think overall things are happening pretty well. I just need to look at it one day at a time and structure myself a little bit more. But not bad at all, man. Not bad at all. Yeah. What about you, Chris? Tougher.
Right. Well, for me, as always, I'm the personal development person. I always look at the ways in which I could always continue improving myself, whether it's in my health, whether it's in my business, whether it's in my marriage. There's always things I think that we could work on. So that has always been my continual thing, I guess, during the entire pandemic and even the last week. On the business front, last week I actually launched a collaboration I was working on with a local shoe brand. I guess you guys would have seen it. Some loafers that we released. So, just been working on that, getting that out, something for men to have of quality during this time, as we're not out and about and overly, in commuting and stuff like that. Something that men could have to be casual with, relaxed, but still, not as slippers, right? Be a little more, refined and dressed well in. So that has just basically been my week, just, forging ahead and finding things to be done and protecting myself, most importantly, which I think is a good way to start, because we're talking about protecting ourselves online tonight. And that is a topic by itself that I think people need to be very highly aware of right now, seeing that there's a lot of digital transformation going on with business, seeing that a lot of people are online more as their home. And I know there would have been probably some bad practices pre-COVID, but now during COVID, people are more online and using different applications and stuff a little more, from banking to stuff. So I think this topic is actually something that we should have touched on a while back. So we're glad to have Christian here with us tonight. So let's start off. Simple question. What are a couple things that you think people should be aware of off the bat when it comes to protecting themselves online? Like if you have one or two main areas that people should be concerned about.
Yeah, Chris, that's a real good topic, because you really have to hone it into one or two topics, because we could sit down here and talking all night about online security. And I think one of the places I would probably want to start with first is the idea of phishing. It's not new to most people. Phishing has been around for quite a while. We may have heard the topic already, but probably never really sat down and discussed it collectively about what phishing is really about. And I really want to start there because it's usually the gateway into taking over, I guess, a person's life. And it has a lot of other repercussions financially as well. So if I want to start with, that's one area I would want to start with. And then probably based on how that discussion goes, we could kind of segue into talking about social media and oversharing online. That's another common area that
Yeah.
I think is
Yep.
really important in terms of how we understand that relationship with social media. It's important to know how to navigate that.
Navigate.
Yeah, for sure.
Agreed.
And,
Agreed.
and for persons who listen online, for those who have never heard the phrase phishing before, we're not talking FISHING because the CD background behind Christopher is by the sea. So that's not the phishing that we're talking about. This phishing is a
That's because I'm
PH.
missing the beat so much, right?
Hey, listen, all of us missing the beat so much, eh? I tell you, but definitely phishing, which is PH, is something completely different, and I think we may need to really get into that now because persons may have been victim of it, and when people hear about phishing, in your own definition, could you give like an example of what it mean by phishing and these things like that, Christian?
Yeah, of course. So I have a few slides I would share with your audience, but before we jump into to looking at the slides, phishing is could be is a definition where it's a type of a social engineering attack, and let me break down that word social engineering. It's a collection of techniques where an attacker will take advantage of a person's trust, and they take advantage of what we'll call cognitive biases, or the way in which we subjectively view risk or view reality or view a situation. We all have unconscious biases in that. And because we have these cognitive biases, those actors use that psychological weakness that we have or vulnerability that we have to fool us or trick us into sharing information we shouldn't be sharing with them, essentially.
Okay, I think that's interesting because I know when I think about that, some people would have received an email from some prince in Africa who have $10 million for them, and they are the lucky winner of that if they can just give their credit card information so they can wire the money to them as freely as possible. And the thing is, as you rightfully say, the vulnerability, and that's a nice word for putting fastness into it because persons will just say, hey, $10 million, I don't know this person, but let me open, and
Right.
it just goes downhill from there. So I mean, if you can really get into that whole deep dive behind it, because I think a lot of us people are vulnerable because of the vulnerable using that word, aka fast, with respect to opening those emails and stuff like that. So yeah, could get into that.
So let me see if I could share a few things with your viewers and your audience that would I guess help bring the idea home. So let me just get press ourselves going. All right. So the topic is phishing attacks, detection and avoidance. So at the end of the day, what we like to do is help inform the audience and increase their awareness of the dangers of phishing emails. I say it's not fish as in fisherman, but phishing is a type of attack. And hopefully, at the end of this discussion, we'll be able to recognize these types of email threats while offering methods to help counter the threat. So again, what is phishing? As we already kind of alluded to, it's a criminal activity, and that's something we want to emphasize. It's people think it's something that someone is doing kind of casually, but these are generally groups of organized crime persons in organized crime, and they spend time sometimes researching their targets to know what you'll be vulnerable to. So the example I gave is somebody who will have the $10 million email that they will get. And because of certain flaws or biases in our thinking, some people say, well, yeah, that's a real good opportunity, but I could get in on that. Some people say, yeah, come on, yeah, right. $10 million, psh, let me just delete that. But it is always the persons who will be more vulnerable to certain types of attacks. So you and I may not fall for $10 million scheme, but we may get a different type of lure that might be more appealing to us because of certain biases we have. And I also want to touch on with social engineering technique, because while we're talking about phishing today, social engineering covers different types of attacks. So phishing will normally come through email, but you have things called vishing, which is voicemail phishing. There's thing called SMS phishing, where you get, and some of us may have remember last year or late 2019, you have been getting text messages claiming to be from the bank and to ask you to enter your PIN. That's a form of SMS phishing. So social engineers, it is leveraging different techniques, and phishing is one of them. And but generally what we'll talk about today could be leveraged for those different types of attacks. Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to look at a few phishing threats, and is again is an attempt to fraudulently acquire sensitive information by masquerading as a trustworthy person or a business in our standard electronic communication. And some of the things, these are all logos we're more familiar with. We'll know we could get stuff from Amazon, your bank, FedEx, eBay, these different types of trustworthy organizations, the types of emails that they will send purporting to be your bank or a contact that you know. Sometimes attacks come from persons that you may be familiar with, but their account sometimes becomes compromised, and that compromised account is used to, I guess, message other persons in that address book. Within the organization, we refer to that as moving laterally, but it is a way of getting, spreading the message around and then using your own access to get into other information or other accounts you may have access to. So one of the main threats and the things that most people think about top of mind when they think about phishing is theft of passwords. And theft of passwords, it might just be to take over one account, one email account. But ask any of us, ask yourselves and your audience is, do you use or do you use one password for every online service, or do you share passwords among online services?
Yeah, I tend to have one password for a certain set of services, and then I might have another for another 3 set of services. But that's usually for ease of remembrance. So
Correct.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what you find happens is, if it is you get one account compromised online, it is very common that you could use that same account for another service. So now they start taking over your online identity using that single password. The other dangerous thing about a password theft is that if you compromise, let's say, an email account, and you go to your online banking or your Amazon or something where you have your credit card information saved, they could use that email account to send a password reset for another service. So generally, a theft of a password is something we may take lightly, because it may be for some social media account that you haven't used or don't use frequently, but human nature is that we tend to reuse the same passwords, and that same compromised password could lead to other sites that use that same password, and they would have an idea of what services you use online if it happens to be an email account, because they will see stuff from your bank, they'll see stuff from other social media services and other contacts that you engage with via email. So it's one of the one things that are top of mind, and it's also one of the um, more dangerous ones that persons may not have, I guess, fully thought through when your password becomes compromised. But the other points in terms of aside from your passwords getting compromised, it could also be used to install malicious software. And that's something that persons may not always consider. So you get a suspicious looking email, and then you click on the link, and it doesn't bring up a page asking you to log in, but you click on the link, you see something flash, and then that's it. And that's all you need to do to sometimes install this malicious software. A malicious software, it has like a range of things it will do, from simple things like making slow down performance of your computer, giving you these annoying pop-ups, and then to the more insidious things that malicious software will do, it will install things like remote access Trojans, or we call a RAT. And remote access Trojan, we break down each of the words. Remote is from a distance, access to your system. And a Trojan now allows that attacker to do things on your computer, turn on your camera for, I guess, for any kind of voyeurism. They want to see what you're doing, because sometimes we have our laptops in our bedrooms or in private spaces, and if someone turns on your camera or turns on your microphone, they could listen on what you're doing, view what you're doing in your private space, and other types of other attacks. And they could also harvest more passwords from different services, from banking transactions to social media to airlines, anything that you're doing online. That remote Trojan could also collect other types of sensitive information, take pictures of your hard drive, use that as blackmail. So another very dangerous aspect of phishing, because it's not only for the password theft, but you can also have different intents of installing malicious software.
I
Um,
actually have a guess. Don't let it cut you, but I actually
yeah,
I had an old coworker, and she was very, very paranoid about that specifically. So she used to have she has a piece of tape over her webcam on her laptop.
yeah,
And then I told her, I said, but you know they could turn on your microphone too, right? Because you have me. And like that was the worst thing I could have told her, because she literally told me after that she stopped having conversations on whether it's Skype or she does it on her phone. And I'm like, yes, but is any device, if they really want to get to you, they can. But
yeah.
what was I found so funny was the big piece of scotch tape masking tape that she had over her camera. And I mean, yes, people do tend to hackers do tend to do that nonsense and try to use your camera and whatnot. I've seen it done before.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! But there are a lot of people paranoid about that.
And it's easy to do because a lot of people think, well, if I turn on my camera, the light should come on, but that's just a signal, right? You could simply say,
Correct.
don't turn on that light, but turn on the camera. And
Correct.
I'm laughing because I'm looking at my computer right now. I don't have a masking tape, but I have
They'll slide up.
a window that I
Yeah.
slide over that camera when I'm not using it.
As
And
do I.
and if I'm in security, and you would think that I should be able to protect my computer adequately enough to prevent it becoming compromised. But there's always the unguarded moment. So as good as we may be as IT professionals and cybersecurity professionals, there's always that unguarded moment. And just to speak to that point you made, is that newer devices are actually come because of that same thing. You could cover your camera with a masking tape, but there's very little you could do to disable your built-in mic in your laptop. And
Hmm.
newer laptops are coming with a physical switch to turn off your
Yes.
camera and mic. And it's
Correct.
for that same reason that it's a well-known vector for attack, for getting into a person's system, and listening to what they do and looking at what they're doing. It's not a nice feeling. So manufacturers are starting to build that into the computers now.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah. And again, all of these things are types of threats. And I spoke to some of these already. They will capture some of your personal files, pictures, documents, and and copy it off of your computer and hold that as blackmail. So all of those private photos, family photos, things that you really don't want your mom and your dad to see, some of those are things that they tend to go after. And one of the biggest things right now is a topic, a thing called ransomware. And ransomware is big news. It's one of the fastest ways for hackers to get revenue. And locally, we'd have heard about um, Answer Answer McCall having a ransomware incident, and most of those things tend to come through phishing emails. You click on a
Yep.
link, and all of a sudden, all your files become encrypted. So this is a example of an actual image from CryptoLocker, which was fairly old, like 2008 or something like that. Sorry, not 2000, 2018 or 20.
2018.
Yeah,
All right.
and took the world by storm. And a lot of
Yeah.
systems were compromised
A
because of
couple a
CryptoLocker.
couple ministries as well got it. Where I work got it as well. That was my worst time ever working IT. Um, yeah, I was that close to quitting, man.
Yes.
I mean, because luckily for us, we had our backups, so we were able to format and just restore. But
Yeah.
for a lot of people, this literally shut down a lot of their businesses. This ransomware situation was crazy. It definitely
Yeah.
was.
It was a crazy time, and it
Yeah.
still hasn't eased up. They're
Nope.
just getting better at doing it, and now they're extorting municipalities,
Yes.
hospitals. It's going crazy, and,
It's
and
awful.
major companies are falling victim to ransomware. And again, you can have the best security, but you always have that vulnerable moment. So the idea is here is to help us become a little bit more aware of the threats of phishing and to be able to identify types of phishing lures and attacks and so forth. So I look at a few examples. Wouldn't be very exhaustive, but just a few examples of local incidents. So this is a Guardian newspaper clipping from 2014, and I don't know how many people have remembered this, but the president's office was attacked via phishing attack, and it's the actual newspaper clipping from that article in the Trinidad Guardian. Another example on your screen, for those that join us via video or listening via audio, I have an image up of a email purportedly from First Citizens. And it looks very nice. For those, I'm sure if you look at this, you've probably not really seen anything too wrong with it. But it starts off, dear customer, please know that your online banking service is about to expire, and it tells them what's wrong with it. And it has a nicely convenient link in that email to click here to upgrade. And most people think, oh, that's something serious I need to really take action on, and may click that link. But what happens is it takes you, or it presents to the person that clicked the link this image. Let me just bring this across. And I hope everybody could see this clearly. If not, I may need probably zoom in a little bit if you can't. But it's comparing two images, and I know a lot of us, how you say, I like to play these games back in the day, finding differences between the
Spot the
images, right?
difference.
Spot the
Yeah.
difference. What do you think is the genuine login screen, one or two? And for those who are joining us by Facebook, put in the chat, put which one of those images you think is the genuine login. And I'll leave this up for a little while to give everybody a chance to look at it. And I wouldn't give you all the answers right away, but we'll come back, and I'll tell you which one of them was the phishing web page.
Great. Yes, answer that. For those who are logged in right now from Facebook, again, look at the two images. Look at the two images there. You can type either one or two in your comments right below, just to see which one you think is the legitimate image. And for those on YouTube, you can go ahead and type either one or two in the comments as well. All right.
All right. So I think we give everybody enough time to look at it. Don't want to get anybody too spending too much time looking at that, because we
Yeah.
have a few other things we want to look at. And it's just another common, not a local example, but we can also get phished via package notifications. And this particular example
Yes.
doesn't have a URL to click on, but you'll notice right at the bottom of the page it has an attachment that they want to trick you into opening. And
Get that
that's,
all the time.
yeah, and that's another vector, another avenue these guys will use, because we're all now shopping more online, where the lockdown has been able to go physically in stores. I may be doing more online shopping, and because of that we are receiving tracking information, or you're expecting a package and you're like, I bought this last week and I don't come to reach as yet, and then boom, is you get this email from FedEx or UPS or USPS, and it's this thing I'm looking, waiting, but you're so anxious, you're so eager about finding out where your package is, you don't really read it fully. And sometimes the tracking number in the email has nothing to do with the tracking number for your package, but you're eager, and you rush to click the link or open the attachment, and you immediately find your computer being compromised. So that's just another example of what these attackers are doing to trick persons into either stealing their credentials or getting them to install malicious software on their computers. Oh, everybody with me here so far, right? We okay?
Yeah, we okay. A little frightened, but
Yep.
a little frightened, but we okay.
I see those so much now as like, listen, I out here too long enough. They can't know, but I know a lot of people, and unfortunately, I'll say a lot of women. All right, they do get catch, and they tend to share, or they don't read, and they just click. And I always have to, explain. There's certain things you need to look for. So I'm liking when I'm seeing next how to detect phishing attacks.
Yes, man. That's definitely. So this is another example using the same idea of a package notification. And again, this looks fairly legit. It has the FedEx colors. It looks good. Dear customer. But what I want to draw to your attention, one of the first things you could look at is who it's coming from. That email address. If something is coming from FedEx, you expect it has something related to a FedEx email address. So when looking at those types of emails, be very, very careful and pay very close attention to the sender. It may say FedEx, that's false, but the email address is totally different from what you'll expect from a FedEx email. Another thing that we could do is in links, in the example, this has a link to get your shipment label. If you hover your mouse, don't click on it, no, not to click on it, just take your mouse and hover over that link. A lot of times it will give you what that link directs you to. So in this image right here, it shows you a little image of what that link actually redirects to, and it has nothing to do with FedEx.com. It has some path ikfly.com, which has nothing to do with FedEx. So those are this is one example of the things that we can do to quickly spot phishing emails. That's one. And then sometimes, let's say for example, we're in a rush, we're distracted, and we click on the email, and then you get, bam, you have this website in front of you. This is an example of another phishing attack that I dealt with where I worked before. And again, looking at using at a high level view, just eyeballing it, it's very difficult to tell there's a difference between the two sites. But when we look at the address bar, what you'll notice that the first one has HTTPS, which means it's a legitimate, secure page, and the second website doesn't begin with HTTPS. So even though it looks exactly the same, they've cloned and copied the site to make it look like a trustworthy, legitimate website.
Yep.
Yeah. So again, it all has to do with paying attention, being alert, and when these things do come, eyeballing it, you would never think that there's something wrong with that site. Um, so how to detect phishing attacks? I like this phrase: stop, think before you connect. It's very easy to get lured into making an emotional decision because you're distracted. The wording that they use is designed to create an emotional response, and before you fall into that trap, stop, think, and then connect. And then always get in the habit of looking at the address line. Sometimes the actors, the phishing, the criminals, these are organized crime gangs, right? They can make sites that will use HTTPS. So in the previous example, I told you look at the HTTPS and it has one has it and one doesn't have it. But because they're getting so good at doing this, they can also give you that HTTPS. So things to get in the habit of doing is look in the address line. If I zoom in on the last example I gave, the one on the image on your right has www.google.com. The image on the left, which is highlighted in red, it has google.com dot getwaterco.com. That's not a Google site.
Yeah,
The
correct.
site is Get Water Co. and then they've added google.com onto it. So paying attention to the
Wow.
address line is another key thing to look for, which is why we need to be careful, be mindful. We're very, very easily distracted and lured. So being stop, think, connect are the watchwords in able to be able to detect phishing attacks. And just before we and in closing and in talking about phishing, is how to avoid these scams. And these are a general topics or general guidance I would like to provide is that typically your phishing emails are not personalized, but they can be. So in some of the examples we used before had dear customer, your bank will know who you are. They would normally tell you, dear Mr. Crossley, or dear Mr. Sampson, or dear Christopher. They wouldn't say dear customer or dear client.
Correct.
Anything that comes generalized like that from a trustworthy organization, it should make you stop and think, why are they addressing me as dear sir or dear ma'am? Don't they know who I am? You have all my business. You should know who I
Correct.
am, right? And generally, messages from your banks or e-commerce sites will be personalized. And if you're unsure, what we would normally recommend is to call up your bank. Don't automatically act
Correct.
based on the instructions you will get from them. Or sometimes if you're uncertain about the link, open a web browser and go directly to the site yourself. Um, the other general topic I would say is always be suspicious of any email which tries to create an emotional response. And examples would be they will use upsetting or exciting false statements to create a sense of urgency. Dear
Yep.
sir, if you don't do this now, we close your account, your service will be
Clickbait.
terminated, or we'll lock your account. They will use these things to create a sense of excitement and to upset you. They will normally ask for personal information. Your bank will never ask you for your PIN. Your bank will never ask you to provide your account number. Those are things which should raise red flags, combined with the fact that they're using alarming messages to get you to do something urgently. And
Correct.
more red flags. Another red flag is again using the same idea of emotional response. They may not tell you that they're going to close your account, but they may proclaim to be someone senior. This is the CEO. This is the managing director. This is IT. To trick you into believing that if it is you don't do this, there's a consequence or there's retribution for not doing that particular activity. Other red flags: incorrect spelling, grammar, sentence structure, is becoming less common. Again, these guys are always refining their techniques. So you may find it isn't as it doesn't have as bad English as it used to in the earlies, but the ones who don't really put much effort into it, you would still be able to quickly detect another red flag is incorrect spelling, bad grammar, bad sentence structure. So those are all red flags to look out for. Right? And again, don't use links in the email or instant messages. Go direct to the web page. Open a new web browser, go direct to the website yourself, log in there. Call the company, etc. Just do not use the link if you're uncertain. Should avoid filling out forms that ask for any kind of personal financial information. Another key red flag. Only use secure websites or via the telephone. Another last point is that always provide sensitive information via web browser and using a secured web page. So sometimes you may click on pages and your browser actually gives you this warning message. The site is secure, and people are like, I don't know about that. They say if I don't do this, I'm going to get locked out. Pay attention to any kind of warning sign that your browser gives you, which is a very clear indicator that there's something not right about that site, and you should now really close that page, open a new one, and go directly to the site yourself. And if we pay attention to these red flags and just use the principle of stop, think, connect, we could really protect ourselves online in this pandemic period, in this lockdown period, where we're doing more and more things online, engage with more businesses online, purchasing stuff more online. We open ourselves to become victims of phishing attacks a lot more. So that's so many things I would have could share with your audience and your viewers about helping them be more secure with respect to phishing.
Wow.
All right, so I hope people are taking notes.
Yeah,
definitely.
Now this is such an important topic, and I actually want to add a couple to what he's mentioned. Something I've seen them do as well is using email aliases, so it resembles the email address that would come from the institution. But then if you click reply, you'll actually see go into a completely different email.
Yeah.
Right. That is something that they do as well that you can actually check. I usually, if you will see that it comes from somebody, but for some reason the address bar looks short, and if you click like to select their email, you see it actually goes to an entirely different email. All right.
Yeah.
I do want to touch back on what we spoke on earlier in regards to using singular email addresses for multiple platforms. And I know a lot of people where I used to work, a lot of the ladies, of course, they love Chrome, right? I don't like Chrome at all.
Don't like it.
But they usually like Chrome because they can log in once and it saves for across the different things that they have, so they don't have to log in every time.
Right.
But they don't understand that is one sure way to get into everything that you have. You know, so I try to encourage people to, use passwords that you can remember, but get in the habit of, logging out and logging back in. It's just one click. It's not going to take you 10 minutes to type in a password. Let's try to do that. And also note, we mentioned a lot about emails tonight, but two things. Well, one experience I had was actually with Skype, where I thought Skype was updating and I needed to log back in, and it was actually a capture page for me to enter my credentials for Skype, and I ended up getting hacked, right? And the person was asking some of my contact lists for money and all kind of crazy stuff until Skype, stopped it and I got back my account, right? That's one, so you have to be aware of that as well. So it's not just emails. It can happen if you're using any sort of online messaging or meeting service. It can happen as well.
Definitely.
Something I want to mention too, all the people that get WhatsApp messages with these links, free gift card,
please,
tell you happy birthday, Christmas, discount. Listen, and then you then all of a sudden everybody in your contact list gets it because you clicked.
Chris,
Right, so
I got that one from KFC during the lockdown period when KFC was closed. I was like, how all you have in seal is not open?
Clear and seal.
you
Like, this
understand?
not making sense.
But yet people like, okay, sending up greetings or whatever, and they click these links, not
Yeah.
realizing their contact list just got compromised.
Yes.
Most times now, because our phones, our smartphones usually goes to a Gmail account to log in for different services, you'll find that the contact lists are usually synced. So they now have access to your contact list, which usually may have phone numbers, email
Oh
addresses,
yeah.
Yeah.
business, these type of things. So be very careful. If it's a link that is something that somebody would not have sent you, do not click it. Please just delete the whole message. But matter of fact, the whole chain of messages you had the last 2 weeks, delete it. All right.
Correct. And also just to add on, protect your mobile device as well, because in mobile device, persons have a habit now of saving their passwords on these devices, and I think devices by default have these passwords saved. So if it is that, I mean, this device is much smaller and much more portable and much faster for a person to grab it and run and cut through some bush. If they get to this, especially if it is that you do your online banking through here and another these things, please do not set remember my password and all these things like that on a device. It may sound obvious, but
Yeah.
you need to be extremely careful with respect to that. If it is that you have like additional two-tier authentication and other things like that in terms of thumbprint, facial recognition, whatever the case may be, you do that as well on top of your passwords if it is that you need to go that particular way. Yeah, so you just have to be really careful.
I like it where the segue you guys may talk about mobile devices, and that's a very important topic too, because that little device holds so much of your life on it. And
So much.
going back to that same thing you were making with the links in WhatsApp message and so forth, not those links also can install programs on your mobile device, and those programs on your mobile device are very, very insidious, and that again is another way of getting your contact information, taking other sensitive information you have on your phone, and also eavesdropping. They could
Correct.
use the microphone on your phone and listen to everything that you're saying.
Camera,
And
everything.
Location.
on your camera, take your location. Your phone has even more personal, I wouldn't even say more, as much personal information that you would have on your, and then your pictures. We're always snapping pictures. We're also taking pictures as to remember that night. So getting your mobile device compromised is not a good thing at all. So we really spoke about phishing more from an email standpoint, but as Chris rightfully said, it's any unsolicited, suspicious message that you receive where someone is asking you to click this link or for this free survey or for this raffle or for this gift card. How about no?
There's these that they send with WhatsApp, especially where they say WhatsApp is about to go offline and expire.
No longer be free and
Yeah, that is a whole bunch of things that cause traffic on the website, on your device and in the system. So that is stuff I just delete. All right, people, just delete that. Before we continue, I want to answer a question here. What happens if you realize you've been lured into a trap? How do you rectify the situation before it becomes a disaster? I mean, I'll allow Christian to answer, but what I tell people mostly, change your password immediately. If you have accounts that are connected, once you change your password, it will disconnect and you have to reconnect and log back in. But Christian, is there anything else that people can do or should do in those cases?
You've hit the nail on your head. If you recognize, oh shucks, I've clicked this link, I entered my password, and for that service, change that password immediately. And if you also know you've used that same password on other services, go and change the password there as well. You really cannot take it for granted that the attacker wouldn't be leveraging that password across other services that you use. And sometimes it may take you a little while to realize that your account has been compromised, because the real sneaky guys will stay quiet. They don't immediately jackass the scene, as they say. They sit quietly, look at your messages, who you're talking to, download your address book, and it's only when someone says, "Hey, Christian, I get this message from you. What this is about?" To me, I didn't send anything, and then you realize, well, something is wrong. So you need to change those passwords immediately. Change them as quickly as possible. Another thing that I could suggest is using things called a password manager. And a password manager is like a vault. It keeps all of your passwords safely. And you don't need to remember 10, 20, 30 different passwords, because if the recommendation is to use a unique password for each service you use online. But that becomes onerous, right? No one can remember 10, 15, 20 passwords. So if you use a password manager, you only need to remember that single password, and that vault will have all the other credentials that then you could use to use on different sites. So that's a second thing you could do.
One of the things that we got to be careful with respect to that as well too is it have a number of these free software that wants to protect your password, and free software that's supposed to be antivirus. Let's put it this way: if you feel sick, would you go buy somebody who giving you free medicine just like that? No, you're spending money, get the good stuff because you want to feel better. It's the same thing that we need to look at in terms of taking care of our phones, our laptops, our computers, etc. Spend a little money, the little subscription for a year to protect, if it's McAfee, if it's all these other antivirus software, or these password management software. Spend a little money and do that. The free stuff, you gotta be very careful about the free stuff. You wouldn't just go on the side of the road and somebody give you this butler thing and say, "Hey, drink this," and you make it absolutely free. You'll be good for days. It's a cure for corona. It's not Trevor. So you gotta be really careful with respect to that. You know?
And another way of putting it is that if something is free, then if the service is not the product, that means you are the product.
You are the product.
So, anything that's free, there's nothing free. There's nothing free under the sun, especially when it comes to IT. We think IT should be free and open, but everything has a cost.
Yeah. And one more safety feature, and I keep remembering stuff as we're talking here. A lot of services now have something called two-factor authentication to protect you. All right, whether it's a message to your phone, a text, an email, to ensure that it's you, to verify that it's you. Please don't be annoyed by that. Please use it. I know some banks have security pins now. Some banks also, some companies use Google Authenticator. So you have to install this token, that resets every 60 seconds, and you put that in. This is to ensure that you are protected. Don't be annoyed by the extra step, please. Because it's for your safety and your security. And something we spoke on, especially when it comes to protecting this thing called our cell phones, this thing that we live on, especially for those people that live on social media. This is a completely next area when it comes to protecting yourself online. The type of information you share, and in some cases, I always say Trinis like to volunteer information.
Oh gosh, like to talk.
Ask one thing and they tell you things that had nothing to do with what you asked them. And so it's the same thing goes for posting online, whether it's social media or whatnot. So let's get into that basically. Like, what are some things that people should be aware of when sharing or being on social media?
This is such a really important topic. It's a big topic. And it's something we could talk about on multiple sessions going forward. But what I would want to probably bring it down and start by bringing it to something simple. And I think what we should do is really reevaluate our relationship with social media sites and services.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that for those of us who got into social media early, like for myself, when I got into to Facebook, it was 2006, and Facebook was a service which you had to have a university email account to join the platform. This is how early it was, and it wasn't open to the public as yet because initially Facebook was supposed to be meant to be used between different universities and campuses, and everybody used to be looking to check to see my campus get signed up as yet, and we excited to join Facebook to start interacting with your friends and so forth. But now Facebook has transformed, and using Facebook as the example, because Facebook is so big, but we could use the same analogy for Instagram, TikTok, all of these different social media services. It's not truly any longer for personal connection. Yes, you could be using it for keeping in contact, but it's primarily, I would say now, a platform for connecting with a community and building influence. So exactly what we're doing here. We're using this platform, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, as a platform for building community and for creating influence and education. But if you're using it in a format for sharing personal information, you find yourself oversharing. And because we're by nature, we like to communicate and connect, and you'll put your name, your address, your date of birth, your schools you went to, the name of your dog, and all of that information is just there.
Relationship status, it's complicated and blah blah blah. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So in evaluating your relationship, think of social media as a public billboard, which is seen by everyone and at all times. And anything you put on that public billboard could never be taken down. So if you think of it like that, ask yourself, what I'm about to post, do I really want everyone to know that?
Correct.
Can I, if I change my view, can I retract that? And think about using the same as stop, think, connect. This is like stop, think, post.
Yep.
Do I really need to put this out there? Do I need to put what I had for breakfast? Do I need to take pictures of outside of my home? Do I need to check into every every place that I visit? Do I need to share my location? All of these are things which tend to come back to haunt you because your profile isn't as private as we think it is.
Correct,
and I would like to encourage anyone, or your viewers and your audience, at some point in time, do a digital check. Google yourself and see what type of information you can find about yourself. I did it just today in preparation for this, and I'm somewhat fortunate. I could get, my name is lost in a crowd. Christian Rodriguez is one of the most popular names that look like. So I had to fine tune it to Christian Rodriguez, Trinidad and Tobago. And I found a social media profile for myself on LinkedIn. But my LinkedIn profile is relatively restricted. So you need to log into LinkedIn in order to see more details. I didn't find myself on Facebook. I didn't find myself on Instagram, and I have accounts there. But it's really very important to think about the relationship you have as an individual with social media, and then based on that, how do I intend to use social media? Am I just using it for the likes, or am I using it as a community building platform to create influence, to share passion? And that's how we should be thinking of our relationship with social media.
Correct.
Quick question though, in terms of like looking from that perspective, because for example, for myself, and maybe for Alice and Chris as well, being in business and these kind of things, like for example, for me, social media has become a platform where people follow your business, and people also follow you as an individual. And you're encouraged in another form, to present yourself to people on social media.
to engage
um,
and engage them
to engage the
personally.
audience.
Mhm.
Right.
Brand, yeah.
But how do you still remain safe when you're trying to create that personal brand and that kind of thing without one oversharing or sharing something that may be too sensitive?
Right. So that's a real good question, and it's a balancing act essentially. So
Correct.
if I have a business and I'm also want to create a personal connection with your clients and your prospective customers, they probably want to get to know you. You probably want to share something which they could connect with, and you decide at that point in time that I'm sharing this to be able to create that connection. So let's say in terms of FitX, you may want to share a weight loss experience or a personal experience where you've um, surpassed your own limits to help persons feel that you can do this as well. But and you could share that information, but choose the types of things you use, the types of images you share. Is this image in line with the brand I want to create? Is this image in
Correct.
line? And Christopher, you're the brand man, so you would be able to talk to that
Yeah.
exactly. Is this creating the type of reaction I want? Is not just about the likes, but it's really about creating that connection. And you don't need to share your GPS location. You don't need to check
Yep.
in. You don't need to share um, everything you post every minute of the day. It's really about creating that consistent experience and sharing things that could help your clients and your customers connect with you as an individual.
Yeah, very, very correct. And I actually was going to tell people, try that at home. Google yourself. See what comes up. See if your pasta video comes up, your world star video comes up, or is
Well,
there
do I?
something more positive about you? Because separate from what we're talking about, employers do Google
Oh
check
yes.
those
Mhm.
people who are coming for interviews now. There may be business partners. I have several people I've had meetings with. I see who search me on LinkedIn. I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
cool. He's checking he's doing his due diligence on me. That's
Yes.
fine.
Yeah.
So something you want to do is Google yourself, see what comes up, see what
Hmm.
images comes up as well, not just information. See what images appears as well with your name. All right. And as you mentioned, it is about that balance. For those that may have been around when we spoke about branding, I always talk about the ABCD of branding, D being your digital presence, and the
Hmm.
things that you share and you want to be known for. Remember, with your branding, you are
Correct.
Right.
sharing your values, your morals, the topics that you want to speak on, and also what you want to speak against or for. So you are sharing
Yeah.
your character there. So when it comes to sharing and you're building a business, that's fine. But there's also always the difference between you being the face of the brand, you being an ambassador for your brand. It's two
Hmm.
different things. So
Yeah.
you should know in that regards what you are sharing about yourself. We know this whole thing will be more visible and stuff is something that a lot of people encourage. At times, I actually encourage the opposite. Sometimes not being too visible is also a thing, because if you're always visible and available, when are you working? Right? So you have to,
True.
separate that. Something let's get into, especially when it comes to security and sharing too much info. We know from celebrities to a couple locals, you're out and about, you're sharing where you're staying, and you hired for the weekend.
Yeah.
Boom, we Miami. So guess what? You're in Miami, I can find you. Or
Yeah.
hey, you're not home, so your house empty.
I'll
Let me
help
go
Oh
deal
myself.
with
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Yep.
Right?
That.
So you are alerting people to your location. I have a associate. She says when she shares her stuff, it's because she already left and gone. She
Hmm.
she shares it after the fact. So in
After the
case you're trying
fact.
to follow her, she's not there. You
Yeah.
Correct.
know, and it's something I encourage people. I mean, it's fun. Yes, we want to share your life, and people who get caught up in that,
Yeah.
it's all right. But you have to be aware of the dangers with it,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And
So true.
so even when it comes to the security of that, now there's nothing physical that you can actually do. Probably might want to take off your location, yes,
Mhm.
Hmm.
but the content you sharing, oversharing locations, major thing when you're actually not there. You're alerting people to that. So
Correct.
what do you think? I mean, I don't think there's anything physical you can do, but I think that's a psychological, or people want to be part of something so much that they end up doing it. So what's your view on that?
I like what you just said. People want to be part of something. They want to feel connected. And again, there's some people who use social media for the likes. They want to. We always like to impress our colleagues, our peers, and that dimension of ourselves is as social creatures also transfers into the digital realm. And just as you said, if you're on vacation and we want to, this real exotic place, and you have the penthouse, or you have this most amazing view, you want to share that, do it when you come back, because you may have so many followers because you're doing this for so long, you lose track of who's on your friends list, right? And you don't know who's there, and they may be looking at you. Oh, Christian here. I know what I go do, and they go to where you're living, and sometimes you may be sharing pictures of your house, things that could identify where you
checking
live.
home.
A checking home, right? It's just really too much information that you're sharing, and your GPS location. Be careful. And I also wanted to, as we talk about sharing, sometimes our apps aren't always our best friends. So we maybe consciously or intentionally unintentionally sharing too much, but sometimes the apps that we use also gathers information that we're not aware of, and is sometimes important to pay attention. And I'm not going to I'm not going to be biased to any one particular platform, because both platforms can do the same, whether you're on Android or iOS. They tend to ask, most apps will say, is it okay to share Bluetooth? Is it okay to have access to microphone? Is it okay to have access to pictures? Pay attention to those, because if you're downloading an app that you're using for scanning, because a lot of us may need to scan documents because we're working online, and the scanning app is asking for access to your microphone. Why do you need access to my microphone? No. Why does this app need access to Bluetooth? No. So you have to be very cautious of when you download apps from the App Store, whether it be the Android App Store or the Apple App Store. Most platforms now will give you a notification if an app is trying to access a function on your phone which isn't required for that app to work. And those are things to pay attention. No, don't just accept it because you need to get it done.
Correct.
It probably means that this app is doing something more than it should. Apps tend to collect contacts because they're building access to your list. And if it's a instant messaging app, well, then that's okay. But again, if the app you're using is a scanner, a page, it doesn't need access to your contacts. It doesn't need access to your Bluetooth or your microphone or any of those things. So we have to be careful. Or ask for your location. Why do you need my location? I don't need to share that. So it's very important to pay attention to it. And for those who may be on Apple or iOS devices, in the App Store it has like a privacy health card, and most apps will tell you what the app is collecting about you, and some apps collect us right down to your battery level.
And what apps
these things. You're like, why is it doing all of this? Because these companies are building such a detailed profile about you to better sell you ads that they're collecting tons of information. And in some respects, they know you better than you know yourselves. We all have these unconscious biases that we are obviously blind to. And these unconscious biases translate into the way we interact digitally. How long we spend looking at a picture, what we like, what we don't like, how long we spend watching a video.
Yeah.
how often you recharge your phone. You let your phone run down to 5% before you charge.
You charge it.
The
Yes.
times that you charge, the times you go to bed, they build
Yeah.
so much of a profile that they could predict what you're about to do, or
Yeah.
what ad will be most catchy for you. So it is social media is a minefield, and mobile devices makes it even
That's
more
right.
difficult and more challenging to navigate.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
when we're using social media, it's really, really important to sometimes go log into your profile, look at things like, do I have my secondary school and primary school information there? Is that relevant? No, take that down. Is my telephone number there? Is that relevant? No, take that down. Strip your profile to the essentials you need for using the
The
service.
service.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do not put too much information out there. Be mindful of what pictures you share. Be mindful of what type of things you post about, because sometimes 3 years ago you post something because you feel a particular way. Flash
Yeah.
forward to today, that's not
Cancel
the way you
culture.
feel about that topic, right?
Cancel
Your
culture.
perspective has, yeah, your perspective has changed,
Yeah.
because we've seen in celebrities lose
Lose work.
opportunities to direct movies because of something they posted 10 years ago on Twitter, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
always be mindful of what you share. Social media is a billboard, public billboard that anyone could see at any point in time
Yeah.
that you are not able to take down. And even if you take it down, who's to say one or 10 of the 1,000 followers you haven't already
Screenshot.
screenshotted it?
Yeah.
Screenshot.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So you could
Yeah.
take it down, but it doesn't mean it's come down, right? So
Yeah.
Correct.
oversharing on social media is a very, very important topic we should all be mindful of. Again,
Yes.
tying it back to phishing, these same threat actors, they will mine your page, they will scrape your data, they will take email addresses that haven't been properly protected on different
Protected.
social media sites.
Correct.
And then there are some sites who have a poor security record, and when their site becomes compromised, they steal the database of users. So now you
Yeah.
find yourself, how did they get my email address? I never gave it to them, because you may have
It's
given it
there.
to some other service.
Service.
And that's
Yes.
generally how it happens.
Yes.
You know,
Ma-
we spoke about social media just now, and because you and I were spoken before about that profile that apps make of us,
Right.
right? And before tonight, I mentioned this to you as well about a client that overshares a lot, right? So I decided for this week coming up to today to kind of pay attention to some of her stuff and see if I could kind of do a little analysis of where she would be, what she does, and if I
Right.
could track her habit. And I messaged her yesterday to ask if you're going to pick up goods today.
Oh,
And she's
wow.
like, yeah, how you know that?
Stalk how
And I'm
much?
like,
Stalk how much?
It's not
Yeah.
stalking if you make the information available.
It's free, right? So,
you know what
yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
She would tag when she leaves, like heading to XYZ, picking up stuff at XYZ, had a good time at XYZ, another week doing so and so. So if I'm a stalker,
Stalker.
lost in the thousands of friends on Facebook, I can simply just keep looking at what you've been doing over a period of time, what's
Time.
consistent,
Yep.
and literally find you. Like I remember some years ago, we were going to have a little lineman stuff, and one of the guys who's habitually late, and habitually every time I ask him how far you reach, he by 5 rivers. That's his line forever. And one of my partners and I decided to say, well, let's see if we can find him, because he checks into pretty much everything, right? And he was so interesting. He was checking something in Porter Speed.
Right.
And he was like, dude, which one to reach? And now reaching 5 rivers, the boy. I was like, dude, you're in Porter Speed. How you know that? Who seen her? I'm like, nobody, your phone saying it. You know, so
Exactly.
we things that become trends as well. That whole checking thing was a big trend.
Was a big
And
trendy
it became
thing, yeah.
so
Yes.
normal for a lot of us that we check it even when we reach home. Like, who checks in at home? It's your
Exactly.
home.
Correct.
Right? The check-in was really actually for, like, for example, businesses. When you get checks coming up on your Google, for example, that people checked in at your location, it's marketing.
It's
But
marketing.
why are you
yeah.
checking in at home?
Correct.
Like, who are you advertising your home to?
The
You know,
thieves.
it's crazy.
Exactly.
Crazy.
The thieves. The
And
thieves.
on top of taking pictures of their homes, after people take pictures of their vehicles with their license plate showing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Now
can
you know
recognize
what
you
car you
on the
drive.
road, parked up. I can see where you're driving. I can see where you're living. I can mark, okay, I want to get that Corolla. I'll pass for that whenever and thief that. You know,
Literally.
like, you literally just setting yourself up.
And the thing about taking
Exactly.
pictures, and the thing about taking pictures at home, especially on your mobile device, especially even if you don't have the social media set in terms of location, you have location set on your camera. So your
Yes,
camera
yes.
itself actually picks up where your house is, where your car is at any given
Yes.
time. And when you post that, people would know, even if you don't say, well, I'm at this place, your picture carries information.
All of that information.
Exactly. And we'll know, okay, oh, this house is in this particular area. No problem, I'm going to find. And you know, we love high quality pictures and everything now. Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but-
All you need to do is take that GPS location, plug it into Waze, and drive straight to your home.
Straight to your home. Straight to your So
You don't need to call for directions, right?
No, you don't. You don't. So as I
Nope.
said, the apps, a lot of the apps, I mean, separate from oversharing on social media, the apps basically are your friend. Like, I remember when my wife installed this location thing to in case she wanted to see where her parents were and whatnot. And the thing is, COVID happened, we were locked down home, but we used to get an email saying, here is your route or routine for the last month. And I'm like, but you're home though. So this thing's still tracking you while you're home
Yeah.
and sending you notifications, right? You know, and then even with the things like these voice messaging, not voice messaging, these voice activated services.
Oh boy.
Alexa and Google and, you know,
Oh boy.
voice activation stuff too. They are building profiles of the times you get up in the morning, turn on your lights, turn off. When you know what I mean, it has those timers on it. I think it was, I can't remember the brand, I don't want to call a brand, but it was one of those IP cameras that got hacked, and the person was, you know, having a full conversation and you know, really harassing a family because he could see them through their cameras and
Yeah.
actually talk to them through this.
Yeah, it was a two-way camera. Yes, I saw that.
So,
I saw
and
that.
He was toying with them and they were going crazy wanting to know what's going on, and he hacked it. So, you know, a lot of these devices, a lot of these apps literally aren't a friend. And, you know, that thing called, well, I don't think we have it here yet. I know in the States, well, we would see it on websites when you have to go to a website and then all of a sudden you go to the next one and you see an ad from the last website it was on. Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's also things like for retargeting for marketing, like physical locations. So you'll be happen to be walking past Burger King.
Yeah.
You pick up, you're in the area. Boom, Burger King has discount
notification.
$2.35 for a mega meal or whatever, and you immediately wants to go by Burger King and buy. So that's something that happens as well. So
Yeah.
I think the scariest feeling though is when you've had a conversation in your home
and then
about
you see
something.
ads about the thing.
and then all of a sudden there's an ad for that same thing.
That same thing.
Exactly. so yes, take off your microphones on your laptops.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a way to really shut it off on your phone, but you know, it's stuff that you have to be aware of. You know, and I mean, like
And
we said at the beginning, right?
Yeah, and I just adding to what you just said, but this is sound very tinfoil, and it probably may people say he's going a little too extreme. I do not have any voice activated assistants in my home. It's just how they market these things. It gives you a level of convenience and a level of automation, and they sell all these great. And I'm into IT. I've been in IT. I say over 15 years, and in security as well. And because of my background, I will understand what takes place in the back end of those systems. And for Alexa or Google to know when you say Alexa, it has to be listening at all times.
At all times.
So you basically have put you've bogged your own home. this is listening to you all the time, just to hear when you say that one keyword, hello Alexa, and who's to say, or how can you verify that the keywords haven't changed? You don't. You're trusting Amazon. You're trusting Google to do what they're saying they're doing. But you have no verification that they haven't changed the keywords unknown to you. So you'll be probably saying that for national security reasons, they say anybody that says the word execute bomb and
Yes.
they said let's listen to those conversations.
Correct.
Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's probably very tinfoil hat and we say that's very extreme, but
Like I said,
it is a reality.
I have one of them devices right here. It just heard you when I said it to the woman. Just
It would. It would. So, I mean, that is.
not worry. I have my headphones.
and I know this is a topic that I mean we can do some very deep dives and literally go across the board for hours. But you know, this was a very informative night. And I do hope people got a lot of information from it, stuff that they can take away and address personally, whether it's on their computers, whether it's on their phones. You know, look at the applications and how you use your technology daily and ensure that you are doing best practices to protect yourself. All right. So, Chris, any parting words before we close off?
Yeah, so just closing topics. The three keywords I would say: take away, stop, think, connect. And in terms of social media, reevaluate your relationship with social media. Don't view it as a place that I'm going to share and for staying in contact with friends. Yes, you could use it for that, but be very careful how you utilize the platform. And you should really be seeing it as a means of connecting to businesses, because there are lots of good businesses online, a lot of key things or things that you may be passionate about: learning to bake, cars, automotive, boats. For me, is mountain biking. Follow your passions, connect in communities, and inspire people. But it's not about the likes. It's not about the followers. It really is supposed to be reevaluating your relationship with social media in 2021. And I could share. I will share the presentation I had that I presented tonight with you guys, so you can make it available to your viewers and your audience. There are a few tips in there that they could always use as a refresher.
Awesome. Is this something you do as a business or anything of the sort, so we can let people know where they can reach you as well, or this is just a passion of yours?
This is just my community give back.
All right.
So and it's my area of profession, and if there's just how I see myself contributing and giving back.
Great.
Okay. Wonderful. So, I mean, thank you once again for joining us tonight. Very informative. We appreciate you sharing your time and your expertise with us. All right. So, Alistair, Mike, any closing remarks?
Here you go, Mike.
Go, man, blow my mind.
Alexa. No, like I think one of my hopes is that people will not just. I think we find a sense of security and safety when it comes to devices and online stuff, that we don't really take concern too much about what information is given. Right? I think and I hope that this presentation today and this topic today would have got people to kind of realize that all this information we're putting on a regular basis could be used for other purposes. Right? Even when it comes to gaming apps now ask for other information that is not really necessary at all. So just for us, like Christian said tonight, to reevaluate our relationship with social media, but also pay attention to what we accept and what we give our information to, because it can be used in so many different dark ways, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. Definitely a great session tonight. And for those whom have these devices right now and we use the trigger word, we do apologize for that.
Oh yeah.
It it was not our intent to call she who shall not be named and the G guy and the Apple Home Assistant. We did not mean to call them, okay? No problem someday. But it was really a great session tonight. It was really an eye-opener, definitely. For persons, you all have the opportunity as well to, after the live that we have, you can go ahead and re-watch this session as well too. If it is that you were taking notes, you have a wealth of information right here on this particular session that we had today. And for those who are on YouTube, don't forget to like the video as well. And if you're really interested in terms of everything that we share here on the conversation, don't forget to subscribe to our channel as well. So folks, please keep safe, even not just with the physical during this pandemic, but also keep safe with respect to devices. Take the advice that we have been chatting about thus far, apply it. You really need, as you rightfully say, re-evaluate your relationship with the devices and social media. Remember it's called Instagram for Facebook, it's called WhatsApp for Facebook. Everything is tied in there now, so you need to check everything within there. So just re-evaluate what it is that you're doing. So again, Christian, thank you very much for joining us, and for those who are at home or looking on the device right now, thank you all for connecting with the conversation. And don't forget, continue to sanitize, continue to keep social distancing, continue to just be safe, and
wear your mask.
Please wear your mask, okay? It's not a conspiracy. Wear your mask, okay? So do what needs to be done, and please be safe. Take care until next time.
All right, bye everyone.
All right, you will take care.
Yeah.